Bitcoin is back above the $61,000 price area, so we have a lot to be talking about in this YouTube video, because if we're able to hold this particular level, then I think we could be looking at the all-time highs and everything being super, super fantastic. We'll talk about that in just a second, but if we don't manage to hold this level and we actually end up dipping lower, then I think this market is going to be in a very tumultuous place. And I want to cover those possibilities with you in this YouTube video. So before I get into it, if you are excited for this, do me a favor and smash up those likes. And while you're down there, definitely check out Blowfin if you're interested in a phenomenal no KYC platform. That means no picture of yourself or your ID and thousands of dollars in bonuses. They've actually just launched this offer for you guys watching my YouTube channel now, where if your trading volume meets certain targets, like say 1 million or 5 million, you're going to get certain prizes. This goes all the way down to a Rolex worth about 10 grand. Definitely get the Apple Vision Pro if you're interested in it. Obviously, it does require 50 million trading volume, but it's just cool because if you're going to trade anyway, and especially if you trade larger amounts, why not get some cash back? Why not get some cool prizes? Check them out with the links below, and as usual, be careful of your country's local regulations. But let's get back to the point of the video here, because Bitcoin has managed to climb back above $60,000 now. We've been stable above it for a little bit of time. If we look at this on the hourly time frame, we've also closed an hourly candle up here, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And if we take a look at some of our indicators that were offering resistance to the market, we didn't do much with this over here, which was fantastic. And I think that the reason we didn't do much with that over here was because we just floated through a very, very thin Ichimoku cloud on the 4-hour, right? So when your clouds are thin, they're quite easy to break. When they're thick, they're a little bit harder. So this is a testament to the market using phenomenal windows of opportunity in order to push the price higher, which I think is absolutely fantastic. But if we bring it back to the chart here, we have overcome this zone of resistance. If we take a look at this on the EMA ribbon, we've also overcome resistance here a little bit back as well, which is fantastic. On the daily time frame, we are in daily resistance. However, we've been rejected from this daily resistance already twice with these rejections over here. So I don't know how worried this would make me at this stage. Typically in my experience, if you are going to get a rejection or a support bounce, it's going to happen relatively quickly. That said, it is still resistance and there is still something here, and I think that's really important to be covering in this YouTube video, because even though we have gotten above $60,000, there are still resistance levels. We're going to be going into that in just a second as well, so definitely stay tuned for that. But what I think is so important before we even look at any of these indicators is just understanding that this $60,000 price level has become very blurry now. Okay, I think that's really, really important. Look, I said that this red line would be my invalidation, and if Bitcoin goes below it, then I think that, it's going to be trending back down to 52. And look, we went slightly below it, and then we recovered, right? So I was wrong about that, and clearly I should actually now I can put the line in a proper place. Now I can put it very accurately because we have punched in a low. So very simply, if we get below that low, I'm going to anticipate that we go significantly lower. But I didn't have that gift of hindsight before, and that just proves to you how blurry these levels in the market are getting, which is why I think definitely me and other really good traders that you probably follow, we're not going to be interested in a 60 or 61 or even $62,000 Bitcoin. At this stage, I need to see something a lot more substantial for me to start feeling kind of impressed and happy with this market, okay? So what that looks like for now is probably going to be some resistance at $64,000 being dealt with, right? And so that would basically mean that the chart pulls off a pattern that will be something a little bit like, let's say this, right? This would be absolutely fantastic if the market could kind of pull this off, because it means that we're going to be kind of, finding a little bit of resistance at 64 at first. Maybe we come back down to support at 61, but eventually we manage to break it, and then most importantly, we flip it and we start finding support at this level, and then we continue to trade higher, right? So I think that's going to be our best case scenario in this market, meaning that Bitcoin gets above 64, but really anything below 64 at this point now, I'm not going to take it too seriously. Last time we got above 64 and above 67, and it was still a rally that didn't end up working out, right? So we really need a lot, I think, at this stage for the market to prove to us that it is indeed bullish, but it's also not far away. The other thing that we've got to keep in mind is that the space between this blue box here and this blue box here, I mean, this is 61K up to 64, so it's about $3,000, but the space between these two boxes, typically you see really quick movements in price, right? I mean, this is a really, really big, important thing that I think people just completely fail to understand, but if you are genuinely interested in trading these markets and actually making money off them, then what I'm about to tell you is going to be so important, which is that these ranges are kind of where the money is made, right? Like, I can show you this super clearly if we just look at the price action specifically, on this chart right now in front of us. what we can see, ladies and gents, is that this range here, when Bitcoin was kind of just over, down around like 61, 62, this range here lasted, what was this? About 5 days, right? But and again, if we measure this range, I mean, like kind of from 60K to the top over here, that was a 4% range. But for the price to break through this 4% range, it did it in 18 hours, right? So it's just a representation of like when you're in different ranges, you tend to see a lot more kind of like stability. You see a lot more kind of sideways action. I mean, across the board, it's very, very clear. But what you see between these two blue boxes, you typically see much faster price action, right? In this case here, pretty much just up within a matter of hours, up within a matter of hours, down in a matter of hours, down again in a matter of hours. And you can trace this back, right? When you start trading in the box, you're sideways. As soon as you get out the box, you're flying super quickly. You're going up, you're going down, you're going up, you're going down, you're going up. Everything happens quickly between the boxes. Things tend to happen slower when you're inside of them. So this is really, really important as a trader, because we can already start to kind of preempt where those zones of kind of very fast movement are going to be in the market, and that's where we can actually start trading them. So for now, it's going to look very obvious that if Bitcoin does manage to get above this high at $61,000, it's probably going to start flying up to 64. And again, to put this in perspective, I mean, these are small price moves, but this is where the money really is made, right? Like, I mean, I'll put it this way: from where we are now to kind of this price range, you're looking at like I said, 5-4% range, doesn't matter. With 5 times leverage, that's already a 25% profit. With 10x leverage, that's already a 55% profit, right? So very big profits can be made out of very small ranges like this, and it just depends on kind of how the trader is doing it. And again, that's based on leverage instruments, right? So that's, first of all, that's not available everywhere in the world. So again, that's going to be based on your regulations in your country. But second of all, it's really fucking risky. So even if it is available where you are, most people lose money. It goes really, really badly. But this is an example of how, if the tool is used properly, this is kind of what the profits could look like. Like I said, there's a lot of different homes you can choose if you do want to trade these markets. Bybit is obviously the best in the game. The Apex DEX comes from Bybit. It's a decentralized exchange. But if you're interested in an alternative, Blowfin is phenomenal. They are no KYC, and they offer thousands of dollars in bonuses with lots and lots of cool rewards. So definitely check it out, like I said. And as usual, just make sure you read our risk disclaimers, whatever these are called, I forgot, down in the description. But yeah, if we bring it back to the market here, I think that's the first really, really important range to be keeping in mind for this market. And I think that beyond that, 64K is going to be the very, very important level that we need to hold and stay above. I really don't care about these price levels right now. I'm not too interested. I'm very, very easily going to expect that Bitcoin can even come back down to 57, 58K, and then continue to go back up. These ranges are blurry. They are not respected. So, a price move like this, it's just not going to get me excited. Get above 64, that would be great. I do want to talk to you about Bitcoin dominance and other altcoins. We'll talk about that in just a second. But get above 64, that would be great. 67 remains our next critical zone of resistance, and if we're able to get above that, then I still believe that $72,000 will be our next and final stop afterwards, before we smash through the all-time high. I still think that the market is poised to move up. A lot of people are still bearish. I'm not really seeing it. If I look at the Fear and Greed Index, 31 today, 25 yesterday, 17 last week. We're doing what we need to be doing in order to reset this market and allow this thing to drop down a little bit. So, I'm really not too worried. I think that, we are still in an overall very bullish stance. To me, it's silly to even entertain the idea that this market isn't still super bullish. I don't know how people have become so bearish at these price levels. I mean, if I sat you down in November of 2022 and I said, hey, I'm not going to give you any information other than the fact that in 600 days you will have 3.6 times more money, because that is what a 260% profit means. 260% up means a 3.6 times return. If I told you that within 600 days, less than 2 years later, you're going to be sitting on a 3.6 times return, you'd be like, that's actually pretty reasonable. You'd probably think that that's actually a pretty reasonable level, for kind of 2 years of holding onto an asset. So, I think we've done incredibly well. I think when you consider just how stellar this rally has been from low to high up by 360%, when you consider the size of this correction, it's just not concerning, okay? It's just not that bad. And that's something which I think is really, really important. Ultimately, I think that Bitcoin is heavily dependent on traditional finance. I've been saying this for a very long time. It is no surprise that today was a big day for the stock market, for the S&P 500 over here. We've seen it gap up and then continue to rally higher, and there is still an hour and a half left in this trading session for the S&P 500. So we're going to be watching this to see how this goes for the rest of this particular trading session, but it's definitely very interesting. It's definitely recovered a lot of the loss so far. I mean, if we measure this from high to low, it managed to drop down by 9.8%, which is the most significant correction that it has seen since this one over here, which was 10%. This correction was initiated in July of last year, and this correction ended October, November of last year. So you know, it's basically been a year since the last big correction, and we've done the same kind of thing now. I wouldn't really count 9-10% as big, but lately that is what the S&P feels is big. But most importantly, from the low, it has now recovered up by 6%, and it's done it very quickly. So the market is definitely looking pretty strong and optimistic from this particular perspective. It does have a block of resistance now. However, if it's able to get above this particular block of resistance, then I would anticipate that it's going to go back up to all-time highs and potentially even set brand new all-time highs. So I think that's going to be absolutely huge and well worth paying attention to if the S&P 500 starts to break those levels. Because how that relate to Bitcoin, you know, to me, it would basically relate to Bitcoin by meaning that Bitcoin just blows up, gets to 67, gets higher, and so on. So a blessed stock market is a blessed Bitcoin market as far as I'm concerned. So I am happy to see this. It is good to see that we're back above 60, but we've got to start flipping these levels for me to take it seriously. I do want to take another look at some of my key indicators, including the Ichimoku cloud on the daily time frame. We do have a somewhat thick resistance cloud. I mean, look, you can see how thick some of our other clouds get, right? So this is not that concerning. It is on the daily time frame. It has already rejected us multiple times. I think it could continue to be a problem, but as soon as we're above it, which means literally just getting above 61k really, I think that is going to be no problem at all, and we're going to forget that it was even there. Again, on the moving average perspective, we do still have a lot of resistance there, so we got to keep that in mind. And on the 4-hour perspective, it's gone. On the hourly perspective, it's bullish, and it is supporting us. So I think we're pretty good from a lot of these kind of different perspectives here. If we take a look at Bitcoin's dominance, we have continued to see Bitcoin's dominance shoot up. This is getting very close to the high that it set at the beginning of this month on August 5th. I think this is looking absolutely beautiful, and it is still getting into my target zone of 60%. So we're very, very nearly there. Shout out to those of you that are subscribed to this YouTube channel, because you have heard me say it for months and months and months. I do not change my hypotheses in these cases. I don't change my trading plans. I don't change my analysis. You have seen it stay incredibly consistent despite whatever the market has been doing. One of the most annoying things about being me is that I'm right very, very often, but I take a long time to be right sometimes. And that's just something I've got to live with. But you guys have seen it in front of you, so if you do find that super useful, if you have enjoyed that, all I ask for in return is that you smash up those likes and you double check that you are subscribed. But yes, this has come perfectly, you know, kind of into fruition as I was expecting, with the Bitcoin dominance continuing to rise up into my target zone. I think it's going to continue to do that, so I'm going to be watching this, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. And basically what's happening here is that while Bitcoin is rising, other people are not buying altcoins. For example, here's Ethereum, which is obviously the second biggest crypto in the game, now down against Bitcoin here. And if you look at other coins against Bitcoin, like Cardano against Bitcoin here, you know, you are seeing that there are losses against Bitcoin, and, you know, against the dollar, these coins are largely kind of neutral at best. So, you know, not going particularly well for a lot of these other coins. I mean, Solana has just been completely sideways at this price level, which is always interesting. You know, and by the way, this looks like a pretty interesting buy. Again, it's not the kind of buy that I would take because of, you know, I'm just not, you know, I'm not desperate to trade. I'll trade if I see something good. I don't need to kind of rush into things, which is really important, because most importantly, I don't want to lose money. But, you know, pretty good setup here. You know, kind of entry around here, or probably even, you know, very easy to fish a little bit lower. You know, that leaves me with a kind of 3% stop loss if I set my stop loss at like 139, enter at about 143. There's about a 3% stop loss. I get 16% upside, 6x risk to reward. You know, this is the kind of trade that I can quite comfortably take on with kind of, you know, 7 times leverage, 6 times leverage. And on the upside there, I'm looking at 16. I'm so bad at math. 16 times 7. If I'm using 7x leverage, I'm doubling my money on that trade. So, you know, it's not a trade that I'm necessarily taking, but, you know, it's there. I would, you know, I need the price to come down. Actually, you know what? I'm going to set an alert. I'll evaluate it later. I need the price to come down. If it comes down, I'll get pinged on my phone, and I'll take a look, and, you know, I can consider kind of buying down there and kind of trading it a little bit higher. But that's what I'm seeing there with the altcoin market. The dollar is continuing to drop, and I think that's what's enabling all of this to even happen in the first place. So we're going to keep an eye on this. This is a big range for the dollar, and it can go very low. So, you know, if it is going to be going lower, then, you know, more sunshine ahead for Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. We've just got to see it get concretely above this level and above 64, and I still think that we're on pace for all-time highs. So we'll see what happens. If we lose this level now, that is my line in the sand. I was kind of drawing it blind before, and that's why I was wrong, and the reason I was drawing it blind was because I simply didn't have the price history at that time, but now I do, and I can say with a high degree of conviction that I think if we drop below 57.5, it is over, and we are going to be, it's not over, but we're just going to be trending down for a little bit longer. It's going to be very good. It's going to be nice opportunities to buy. There's no reason to be scared about it at all. That's how I see it. I'd probably anticipate maybe something a little bit like this, and then I'd want to see the market kind of come back up to all-time highs. But there you go. That's what I'm seeing in this market. If you have enjoyed this video, you know exactly what to do. Subscribe, hit up the likes, all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.